Evening to our last candidate forum for the positions on the county commission. We thank you for coming tonight. This is a joint operation that's put together both by the library and the League of Women Voters. And I would like to introduce the president of the League of Women Voters, Judith Kirk, please.
Thank you. Yes, I am Judith Kirk and president of the local League of Women Voters, and welcome tonight. Very glad to have you here. I want to thank the Natrona County Public Library for their help in sponsoring and hosting this event, and especially to Betsy O'Neill for her great support in advertising and organizing this event. A brief word about the League, just in case you don't know about us. The League of Women Voters was founded almost 100 years ago in 1920, and it was rooted in the movement that secured the right to vote for women. Over time, both men and women have worked with the League of Women Voters to ensure that all people have the opportunity and the information they need to be effective voters. The League's mission is making democracy work. Educated and informed voters are the key to our democracy, and our work is to protect voters, and it includes voting rights, improving elections, and educating and engaging voters. Local League of Women Voters across the country host hundreds of candidate forums and debates and provide straightforward information on candidates and other ballot issues. And the League works all the time, all year, to empower all eligible voters to participate in our political system. You are here tonight, so I know you are an engaged voter. We have information for you about the League in the back, and I welcome you to pick up that information. We meet monthly at the Parkway on the first Thursday of the month. Carol Crump is our gracious and demanding moderator, and Betsy will be doing some timekeeping and wave a flag to tell you how that time is going. So, Bill, you have more to say?
Thank you, Judith. Again, thank you to the League for many years of sponsoring democracy and informed voters in our country. I would like to thank the candidates tonight in particular. Believe me, it's a long, grueling road for many of these offices, and I know that each of you have been busy over the last several months. We just have a couple of weeks to go, so thank you for throwing your hat in the ring for these offices. I'd also like to thank Carol Crump in advance for moderating this forum, and despite what she told me before, she will be doing this for many years to come. So you're on notice, Carol.
Next time they ask me to do a forum, I'm going to say, "Is that big building in Rome?"
So anyway, it won't work. But anyway, a little bit about the logistics this evening. There are some questions that have been sent to Carol over the last several weeks. If any members of the audience would like to pose a question to the candidates, there are index cards in the back. Feel free to see Jim in the back, and he will help you with filling those out and then getting those to Carol. Also, as we've done in our other forums, we will be video taping this evening, and it should be up on our webpage tomorrow for others in the community to listen to as well. With that, I would like to formally introduce Carol. Carol has been moderating forums like this for many years. She has a long history of political activism here in our community and served as a city council member between the years 1994 to 98, so she comes well qualified to answer questions. She's served on several state advisory boards as well for the governor, and so at this point I will turn it over to Carol, and again, thank you all for coming this evening.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you on my behalf to everyone who came to another forum, and also to the candidates. I always like to thank you for having the courage to step up and do this. It's an important part of our democracy that we have a variety of people running for office. As usual, we'll rotate for questions. Betsy has a yellow plate that she will hold up when your time is almost up, When she holds the red piece of paper up, your time will be up, and I will stop you and not let you even finish your sentence, even if you are in mid-stride. We'll start out with giving you an opportunity to introduce yourselves. We'll give you a minute for that. We'll also have a minute at the end so that you can sum up anything that you felt you didn't get to say. And then each question will be asked of each candidate. We'll rotate through so that everybody gets a chance to answer first. I would encourage you to try not to just say what the guy in front of you says. Generally, that's a comment I get from the audience that, oh, they all say the same thing. You should ask them all different questions. I'm not going to do that to you. I think it's fair that you all get asked the same questions. But please do try to come up with what your real thoughts are rather than just repeating that whatever the one next to you said had a good idea. You will have a minute to answer each question unless I tell you different. Some of them you may not need a whole minute to answer, so I may cut down the time. We're looking at probably about an hour to maybe an hour and a half, and we'll be finished with the forum. Okay, we'll start out with, tell us about yourself and why you're the best candidate running for the Natrona County Commission. We'll start with you, Mr. Goodenough.
Well, thank you, Carol. A minute is not very much time, so Kelly Walsh High School, Casper College, University of Montana with a degree in resource management, 7 seasons working for the Forest Service, Peace Corps Guatemala for 2 years, Casper Mountain Woodcutter, State Forestry for 2 years, Natrona County Parks Woodcutter for 1 year, 13 years outdoor maintenance person, 6 years one-call locator, and Tipsy Limo business owner, 4 years state representative, 2 years lobbyist for the Wyoming Coalition Against Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault, 10 years in the Wyoming State Senate, 8 years on the Casper City Council, and I think I am one of the best candidates because of my experience, my political experience. I've been mostly an outdoor worker of one sort or another, so I like working outdoors, and I see the Natrona County Commission as being connected with the outdoors in many different ways.
Out of time. Thank you. Ms. Bergeron.
My name is Linda Bergeron. I think that I am a good candidate because I do study the Constitution of Wyoming and the Constitution of the United States. I've been alarmed by some of the legislation that's been passed, and especially a $17 trillion deficit. After being alarmed at that, my concern has been that we must pass down our great heritage to our posterity, to our children and to our grandchildren. And I've studied ways to limit government and to be able to do that. I think it's exceedingly important. And I've taught classes in the 5,000-year leap in the making of America. And I tried to reach out to the public so that we can get more people involved.
Thank you. Mr. Wingerter.
Well, thank you very much. My name is Terry Wingerter, and I see many of you and have known many of you in the audience. I see one, Pinky, a previous county commissioner and a current county commissioner. I think I'm a good candidate. I've been 20 years on the county commission. I've been 8 years on the city council. I've been in the service groups, Kiwanis Club, Optimist Club, have done a lot of volunteerism. In fact, Carol and I was picking up tree limbs in Washington Park and City Park last October in the big snowstorm. Civic and government's always been my interest. I was an intern out in Washington, D.C. under Tina Roncalio for about 6 months. And JFK actually got me started. I used to sit home and watch those conventions till all night long, till 3 in the morning. But I think I'm a good candidate, and I hope I would appreciate your vote in the future.
Mr. Gilmore has said he will be here, so if he does get here, we'll just work him in wherever we are in the rotation of questions. Mr. Hendry.
Well, thank you, and thank the League of Women Voters and the library for having this forum tonight. My name is Rob Hendry. I'm a third-generation rancher and resident of Natrona County. My wife Leslie and I have 2 boys and daughter-in-law and a grandchild, and they all are out on the ranch right now, which gives me enough time to come in here and be a commissioner. I've been a commissioner for 2 terms, and I enjoy that. We make all kinds of decisions every meeting, and whether it's putting people on boards and commissions around town. We've had plenty of experience doing that. I've been a president of state associations, and I think I've got the leadership skills and the knowledge about the county to do a good job.
Mr. Lawson.
Thank you. And thank the League of Women Voters for inviting us here this evening. My wife of 45 years is sitting in the audience. We moved here about 25 years ago. I had a career of nearly 40 years with the Bureau of Reclamation, but 23 of those years were spent here. I was the head of the Bureau of Reclamation over the North Platte River system. I believe with the experience that I got from that job, gave me a lot of fiscal responsibility and the skills that I could work with the other 4 commissioners and be an immediate positive impact. I had a job that required me to work with complex public issues, work with state, federal, local, and county entities and the effects they have. And I have a very strong budget background to go with that. And in the end, though, I'm a good listener, and that's what's needed.
Thank you. Mr. Schlager.
My name is Steve Schlager. Thank you, Carol, for
You're welcome.
moderating again. Believe it or not, I know this is hard to believe, but I enjoy when you moderate these. It's I like the way you keep it fair. I was born and raised in Casper, joined the military, received an honorable discharge from the U.S. Navy, moved back to Casper in '93 after the military stint was over. Between the military and police officer work, I spent 23 years in public service. Retired in 2007 from the police department. Why me? I'm hardworking, thorough. I've got experience with state and local courts. And I think I have a fresh set of eyes that would be a benefit, and I'm open-minded.
Thank you. We'll start with Mr. Schlager for this first question. I didn't want you to get used to the order of rotation. Yeah. Tell us about your current and past involvement in Natrona County government. Have you been on any county committees, attended commission or planning commission meetings? You have a minute for this question also.
Okay. Involvement with county was mainly in law enforcement for me up until about 6 months ago. Since then, I've attended the county commissioners meetings and work sessions. I think I might have missed 2 of the county commission meetings. Not appointed to any boards, but the meetings that I missed were kind of beyond my control, the recent ones anyway.
Thank you. Mr. Lawson.
Thank you. As head of Bureau of Reclamation, I had a lot of dealings with the county government, particularly with parks, Alcova, Pathfinder, and Gray Reef as an example, and through their agreements. I've recently, since my retirement, became a trustee on the public library for the county. Was also appointed to the Utilities Advisory Board by the City of Casper for the Casper Utilities Board. I've had an extensive amount of experience working with some right-of-way issues, permitting issues with regard to Casper Alcova Irrigation District, and working through the county in that very effort as well.
Thank you. Mr. Hendry.
I've been a commissioner for the last 6 years. Before that, I was on the Natrona County Fire Protection District Board. I've had some involvement with the Sheriff's Department in search and rescue operations. I was on the Natrona County Predator Animal Board. I was on the Natrona County Farm Service Agency Board. So I've got plenty of experience on Natrona County boards and getting to know the people around the county, and I think that makes me well suited for this job.
Mr. Wingerter.
I've been on just about every board the city and the county's had over the last 28 years. Like I said before, I've done a lot of volunteer work. Right now I'm on the Hall of Justice Board. I'm on the CNFR. I just recently got off the airport board. I've been on the fairgrounds, the fair board, and I've just been so involved and I enjoy it. Recently the NPO called me and they're going to get a committee together to clean up the interstate running through downtown Casper that I'm very interested in, and I'm excited about that board. You know, we're going to have a nice West Yellowstone district and a nice convention center area, but it's going to look like hell to get there. So I'm very interested in cleaning up the interstate, but you give me a board and I've been on it.
Ms. Bergeron.
I have attended county commission meetings probably for about 2.5 years now. I speak on issues, I look at the packets, I inform myself on property rights issues. That is my big concern. With the county commission, it does have a substantial effect on property rights. People in Wyoming that I'm familiar with in Natrona County have lived here all their lives. They've established Natrona County. Those people are important. Their land rights are a big issue, and I believe in sticking up for them, and I believe in standing according to our Constitution and being very careful that we don't overspend and take too much federal funding.
Mr. Goodenough.
Well, of course, being on the city council, a lot of the issues are connected to the county commission, so I've been there for the last 8 years. But it's also worth noting that counties are administrative units of the state. The legislature determines whether Wyoming has 1 county or 100 counties or any number in between. So during my 14 years in the legislature, I was on a variety of committees, and every one of those committees has a bearing on what goes on in the county. I was on the Judiciary Committee, the Travel Committee, this committee and that committee, and I went in 14 years in the legislature. You go to hundreds and hundreds of committee meetings, and so all of those to one degree or another have a bearing on what happens in Natrona County. And so I've had a lot of discussions about county issues. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question, we'll start with you, Ms. Bergeron, but I have a request from the audience. When you speak, will you move the microphone over so that they can hear you?
Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. The commissioners aren't the county's only elected officials. How important do you think the working relationship among all the county's elected officials is? Would you do anything differently in regard to those relationships?
I believe that it is important to communicate with other counties. As we grow as a state and interact with funding, I'm sure SLIB board funding, a lot of that funding is important, that all counties are represented wisely and well. I believe that the people should also interact, and the population of those counties should be represented well. As far as doing anything differently, I'm sure that there's a chain of command in place, that probably a board that, or a PAC that's overseeing a lot of that. But I believe it is important and should be.
Thank you. Mr. Goodenough, again, the relationship among the county's other elected officials.
Well, all elected officials are there to serve the people, and so the assessor, the treasurer, the coroner, the sheriff, all of the other county elected officials are there because the people voted for them and put them in office. So I believe that that needs to be respected, and those offices need to be respected. And what's happened recently on the city council, what I think, is a lack of respect for elected offices, because as most people know, we've had a lot of turmoil with Craig Hedquist and his situation, and the change in the city's, the ability of the city council to kick fellow elected officials off of the council. And what I see happening is a lack of respect for fellow elected officials. And without getting into any of the details of what he did or didn't do, he is an elected official, and the changes that were made at the council level are just unacceptable to me, and I voted against them because it allows colleagues to kick another
Your
elected
time is
official
up.
out of office. Thank you.
Mr. Schlager.
Well, to me, it's basically very simple. You treat others the way you want to be treated. It's the way I was raised. As far as I guess a change that I would make, I'm not aware of anything that I would want to change. We're kind of at a disadvantage to the sitting commission members. So, but from what I've seen, I don't think anything needs to be changed at this point.
Thank you. Mr. Lawson.
Well, the first thing, obviously, is respect one another. And working with all the other officials, it's absolutely imperative that you realize that if you're going to get respect, you're going to have to give them respect as well. As far as making any changes, I'm not aware of anything right now that would require a change. I do know that I've had the opportunity to meet and also get to know several of these officials, and they're very good. They're very good people. I believe as a team, and it is a team. As a team, it's absolutely necessary that we would find a way to not necessarily agree on everything, but find a way to work with each other and come to a common understanding.
Thank you. Mr. Hendry.
Well, thank you. And I think that the relationship that we have as county commissioners with our other elected officials is a good one. When I first came into office 6 years ago, the different department or different county elected officials, the treasurer, the coroner, clerk, they would all come in and tell us what they were doing. And we stopped that because they are an elected official. We don't really have any reign over them. We do the budget time, and we deal with them and deal with their departments. And it's a cordial relationship, and we have a good relationship with all of them. I will tell you that when I was chairman, we had a real budget problem, lack of money, and the other elected officials really were good at helping the county save money that year, and we made it through in pretty good shape.
Mr. Wingerter.
Well, naturally, being the budget officers of the county, we have to work with the other elected officials and respect them, we respect their opinions, and I hope they respect our opinions. There's one thing, I've been knocking on doors quite a bit lately, and I'm sure some others up here have too, but there's one thing I'm going to try to change tomorrow night. You know, recently we came out with some resolution about how people can address us, but I've been several times, people at the door have mentioned this 3-minute thing. We ask people that they can only address us for 3 minutes. That's not going to get it. I was elected to listen to the public, and if it takes more than 5 minutes, I'm going to do it. However, I do not run the meeting. The chairman runs the meeting. But as long as they address us in a civil manner, I don't care how long it takes, I'll be there to listen to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Since Mr. Wingerter brought it up, we'll give everyone an opportunity to answer the question about the new civility initiative.
Yeah.
The commission recently passed a civility initiative and it includes the 3-minute speaking rule. How would you balance that with a citizen's right to speak at meetings? Let's start with Mr. Lawson, and then we'll go to Mr. Schlager and around this way.
Well, my understanding is, and I believe also the resolution, the way it came out, is basically nothing more than trying to give an orderly and civil manner for all participants, and that includes the commissioners as well as the citizens, to with dignity and respect, to address each other at this formal meeting. So there was certain guidelines that were laid out, and one of the guidelines was this 3-minute rule. The chairman, my understanding, does have the ability to allow something beyond 3 minutes, and the other fellow commissioners have the ability to ask the chairman to allow such an extension. So at this point, I would say I'd have to see it play out for a while, and if it isn't working, then start talking about revisions, since the commission did pass it.
Mr. Schlager.
It's kind of sad that this had to be, I guess, passed. It's, again, the way I was raised. Treat others the way you wish to be treated. And unfortunately, it had to be enacted. The 3-minute rule, not really a fan of that. I think 5 minutes would be a little bit more appropriate. But you have to understand, too, that I believe it should only be used when there's a large group of folks that want to speak to the commissioners. You know, not everybody can sit around all day long waiting for someone to give their 2 cents, so to speak. There's mothers, fathers, you know, folks that need to take care of a family that are in the audience that wish to address the commissioners as well. And we want to, I think you should be able to have a mechanism in which everybody has a chance to address the commission in a time-friendly way.
Mr. Goodenough.
Well, to me, it's more evidence of a lack of respect for the citizens who are, after all, who elected officials are supposed to work with. I think the entire approach is wrong. I am impressed with how polite citizens have been, considering how jerked around they get by numerous groups of elected officials. And in my 8 years on the council, I've never seen anybody out of line, when probably they should have been yelling, but they haven't been. So I applaud the politeness of the local citizenry. And if you have a thin skin and you can't stand being criticized, then why are you running for office? What I think we get is lots of times we have people with big egos and thin skins, and they just can't stand to be criticized. They just can't stand the thought that somebody could point out their weak points and how they are not doing the right thing. And many elected officials don't like to hear that, and they get irritated. And so if they could cut it down to 1 minute, I'm sure that's probably what they would try to do.
Ms. Bergeron.
Again,
Speak into the mic, please.
Thank you. Again, I'm running on property rights. That's my motivation. As you watch people speak to the county commission, they do stay according to the agenda, on task. They speak to the issue that is prevalent to the public speaking time. These people have worked their entire life for their property. They are passionate. And we are a constitutional republic, system of government, which means 2 things. We follow our Constitution, and we represent the people. We are representing that person's vote. And so it's very important that those people have a chance to speak clearly and concisely, but to speak to the people that are before them, representing them.
Mr. Wingerter.
As long as they stay on the subject in a reasonable amount of time. I realize not everybody can stick to 3 minutes, and I certainly don't want them to go on for a half hour. But as long as they stay on a reasonable amount of time and stay on the subject. You know, Governor Friedenthal had this saying that people don't care how smart you are. Not that you don't need to have some smarts, but people want to know if they can trust you and if they can, and if you'll listen to them. And that's what it's all about, trusting and listen. And that's what I'm willing to do, and that's what I have done. So thank you.
And Mr. Hendry.
Yeah, a month or so ago when this was brought up, I did vote for it. Things were getting a little bit out of hand, and the chairman kind of thought that this would be a good idea to bring this up and bring this issue forward. I'll tell you, if you go down to legislature, you will address the chairman when you get up to the chair and answer questions through the chairman, and that's basically what this is. It's to just bring things back into line, that this is a civil meeting and everybody needs to conduct themselves that way. And I think it's done its job. The 3-minute rule, if we need more, we can appeal to the chair and he can probably give us some more time. So I don't think I'd worry about that too much right now. If there's a big crowd, everybody needs to have the chance to talk.
Thank you. We'll switch gears a little bit here. Roads in the county are a mix of county roads and private roads. Some are paved, some are graveled. What's your assessment of the county's roads, and how would you prioritize maintaining these roads? We'll start with you, Mr. Wingerter, and we'll go to Ms. Bergeron and then Keith and around.
Well, the way I would prioritize, those roads are the number of traffic they have on the roads. If they're used, if there's quite a bit of traffic on them, we have to maintain them a little bit better and more frequently than the other roads. Of course, all the county roads need updated. They need maintained, and that's number one. But naturally, the roads that are busier need a little bit more attention than the roads that are not as busy. And that's the way I would prioritize them. So thank you.
Ms. Bergeron.
I think that there's budgeting for roads. I think that budgeting should have a higher priority for roads, as opposed to some of the other things, like maybe the party that they throw up on the mountain at Bear Trap. I think maybe some of those things could be put into roads. I think it's very important to the public to have good roads to drive on. I just think as roads get worse, get more potholes in them, those roads need to be repaired. I see that we redo and redo and redo certain roads, and we neglect other roads to the extent that those roads are being given to the city, and I think that's wrong, because county people live there for...
Time's up. Mr. Goodenough.
Well, of course, roads are critical to the economy of the county, and to me, the first step is to stop allowing the roads that exist to be destroyed or downgraded by the amount of truck traffic and the weight of the truck traffic. I suspect, I don't know this, but I suspect, based on discussions we had in the legislature, that the weight limits need to be looked at, and the weight limits probably should be lowered. And I realize that the trucking industry and the various industries don't like that approach, but of course it's not the Volkswagens of Natrona County that are destroying the roads. It is the heavy truck traffic that's destroying the roads. And so why not make sure that what the roads we have are protected first? And the second point is that the public roads that are not county roads, there's a lot of people, residents, that are dealing with that. Roads that used to be maintained by the county to some degree are not being maintained.
Time's up. Mr. Schlager.
At one of the county commission meetings, it was actually brought up that a road that the county had been maintaining was actually a private road. First and foremost, I don't believe that any public funds should be spent to maintain a private road. That is up to the residents that live along that road to maintain that road. Second, I think that the funds should be spent in a manner in which the worst or the busiest roads are maintained first and then expand on it from there. But again, I think we need to make sure that it's the county roads, and they are county-owned roads, I should say, not public or not private roads.
Mr. Lawson.
Thank you. Well, it's a very difficult situation. The county has over 800 miles of county roads. And many of these roads, roads across the nation, are very old roads. The infrastructure has been aging for some time. And there's probably going to have to be a lot more thought put into converting many of the roads that are now blacktop roads and actually converting them to probably some type of a hard surface gravel road from a cost standpoint, if you're going to be able to do it. Priority-wise, it's for me, it's based on the highest traveled, the most traveled, and safety gets the highest priority.
Thank you. And Mr. Hendry.
Well, roads, I know quite a bit about county roads. I travel a lot of them every day when I come to town. You know, the oil roads that we have, it costs so much money to rebuild those that we may end up chip sealing them and trying to patch them up. But at $1.2 million a mile or more, it's pretty difficult to redo them. The gravel roads, we're in a stage right now where we're trying to obtain gravel on a lot of the gravel roads and nearby, so we don't have a lot of cost in trucking. And some of the gravel pits that we've found have their surface is deeded, the people own them and we can get it, but it's BLM minerals and it's hard to get the BLM to release those gravel pits. But we're trying to do that. The public roads that are not county roads, we're going to try to help them get started and have homeowners association to go ahead and fix those roads up. And it's important to me to
Out of time.
be on time.
Save those thoughts. We'll start with Mr. Schlager and just go this way so that it's not so complicated. County services like law enforcement, medical care for the indigent, and help to fund a public library, the health department, and district attorney are mandated for counties by the Wyoming Constitution. The state mandates often, and not usually, come with enough money to pay for all those services. How will you fund these services? We'll start with Mr. Schlager.
I do have some experience with a few of those, but I guess I would say that the mandates, if they're funded through the state, I don't see as that's really an issue. But if we have to come up with the funds, it's going to require budgeting, and it may require some kind of creative thinking in order to fund those items. But we have to. It's mandated by state law. We'll just make do what we have to.
Mr. Lawson.
Well, as pointed out, all those services are in place now, and they are being funded presently. It's probably up to the individuals if they believe that it's being funded to an extent that's meeting the full needs. But there's going to have to be some give on this. If you have all these mandated requirements and the county is required to come up with the funding, they can only do it a couple ways, and that is through some type of a taxing situation, either property tax or the 1 cent tax that's coming up to try funding a good much of these things that they're responsible for. So I would have to say that I would not be smart enough to do it by myself. That's why you have 5 commissioners, and be working with the other elected officials to figure out how to be able to address these needs.
Mr. Hendry.
A lot of these services are mandated by the state. The state helps us out. They give us, the legislature appropriates some money every year to help, and it works. But as time goes on, we're going to have some more money. The Sheriff's Department is a good example. As the county grows and we get more and more people, you're seeing it in the paper every day. There's more and more crime going on. So I think our budgets in police and law enforcement are going to have to go up. So that's one of the things you run into with an influx of growth. The legislature, we will be down there talking to them as a county commissioners association and trying to get them to help us. But we have to have those services. That's just, we have to have law enforcement, police, and jails. We don't like them, but we have to have them.
You're
Need
out
some
of
help.
time. Mr. Wingerter.
The way I'd like to explain it to everybody, there's like 23 mini states, and the state does mandate some areas, all areas for the county, and they do help us out with some money, naturally. But if we run out, we're just going to have to go back to our legislators and let them break that little safe they have, that rainy day account that they're hard to, that they never want to break up. But that's what we're going to have to do. The state legislature has been very good to the counties lately. Our legislators in particular, Natrona County, we visit with them right before they go down, and we're now visiting with them on ongoing different meetings, and we ask them for something. They are always willing to go down and fight for us. But so far, the states, I think, has been very good to the counties.
Ms. Bergeron.
I think it would probably be an issue of prioritizing budget issues. There are some things in the budget that I feel that aren't mandated by state constitution, and that would need to be looked at, and wise decisions need to be made. Careful decisions. I would involve the public, and the public is genius. Different owners of business, you know, they've got ideas that can be implemented as well.
Mr. Goodenough.
Well, as my sweet wife likes to say, government is the process by which limited resources are allocated to unlimited demands. And the purpose of government is to fairly and equitably distribute the limited resources, and that's what the county commission has to do, that's what the city council has to do. And so what I would promise is to be fair in my dealings. I also believe that in a government bureaucracy or any bureaucracy, the real answers lie mostly with the lowest paid people on the totem pole, and that's usually the people who have the least power in determining how the decisions are made or what direction the bureaucracy goes in. So if elected, I would promise to try to talk to the lowest paid people and see what they have to say, because usually the smarts are at the bottom of the heap, not at the top of the heap.
Let's talk development a little bit. When approving a rural subdivision, and this is about the Brooks Ranch question, at the time there was a lot of controversy about the development of that property. Should the county require truth in advertising, such as disclosure of potential water and sewer problems, soil problems, electrical issues to potential buyers? We'll start with Mr. Lawson.
A lot of it starts either in the county planning and zoning board, and also the codes that are already put in place. There are those codes and zoning requirements are there to try to protect the public, and to have that kind of information available and disclosed. So I would definitely believe that it is the county's responsibility to a great extent to try protecting the citizens out there the best they can with regard to any full disclosure, transparency. regarding any development that is occurring and being approved by the county.
Mr. Hendry.
Several years ago, the legislature passed regulation, passed a law that any subdivision needs to have private approval. You need to go to planning and zoning in each county and at least have a development plan for that. Now, the county has not gotten into what you can do on each piece, and it's still a buyer beware. The buyer's got to beware of what he's buying. Now, we can go out there and the developer and make sure that developer does things right, has the roads set up, has everything set up. But as far as whether the county should go out and hold everybody's hand when they buy that, that's a little bit different.
Mr. Wingerter.
We can't hold their hand, but full disclosure on what they're buying, I think, is a good idea. The problem is, I was in the advertising business, and you cannot tell them how to advertise. I realize they should advertise in an honest, sincere way, but what they say in their advertising, you just can't tell them what to say and what not to say unless you get some laws out of the state of Wyoming. And so far, evidently, the legislature has not solved this a big problem, but it is a problem for the county because they purchased these lots up there, the 40-acre tracts, and all of a sudden they want all this infrastructure, and we can't afford it. So I would certainly hope that we would have full disclosure, but as of now, legally, I don't know how we can get them to advertise full disclosure.
Ms. Bergeron.
Well, I would say the answer to that question is no. That's probably something for the state legislature to speak to. The people that do come before the county for a subdivision are screened, basically. A lot of questions are asked of those people. As things go along, maybe more precise questions can be asked, but I think that is for the county commission to be sharp in asking and to look forward into what could occur, and a lot of times they do. And at that point, it can be denied.
You're out of time. Mr. Goodenough.
Well, I believe the county has a responsibility for the big picture items, the roads, so that if somebody is buying a piece of property, they know if the road's going to be plowed or not, so they can have access to the road. The county has a responsibility to do those sorts of things. Zoning, I support the zoning concept. So you know if you buy a piece of property north of town, you're not going to end up with a petroleum facility right next door to you, for example. So I think government has a responsibility for the big picture. But in terms of soils and whether or not it's in a low spot and you're going to have drainage problems and all of those things, it seems to me it's the buyer's responsibility to investigate that and look into that on their own. And I don't support any sort of regulations or requirements on disclosing the things that a responsible homeowner should look into.
Mr. Schlager.
If you were to regulate something like that, it would require an increase in government, an impact on the budget, and with the way things are right now, I don't think that would be a wise choice. I think in the long term, possibly. I think there should be something about truth in advertising, but I agree, probably not the county that should do it. But I also believe that the buyer has their own responsibility in purchasing things. If you don't know what you're doing, yeah, it's probably going to bite you. But I don't think it's the county's job to get involved in that.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Mr. Hendry. Excuse me. In the past few years, much of the controversy in the county is centered around property rights and the county's ability to enforce cleanup. Do you support continuing the county's cleanup efforts? Mr. Hendry first.
Yes, I do. I support that cleanup effort. I live west of Casper, and there's a lot of collectibles out there, and we could make it better. It doesn't. People have the right to do what they want to on their property within parameters. When we set that our car issue up, we had 3 people that wanted it cleaned up, and we had 3 collector car people on a board, and we came up with those rules. And you can have them as long as you screen them and kind of protect the view shed coming into town. And so I am in favor of cleaning that up. We've cleaned up a lot of our country out there along the highway and tore barns down and everything else.
You're out of time. Mr. Wingerter.
Well, yes, I am. I talked earlier about I-25 cleanup, but yes, I am in favor of cleaning up the county within reason. Within reason, as long as I realize collector cars, collectors need a place to put their cars, and as long as there's not rodents, or as long as they can screen their cars, and maybe set them up. We ask that they set them up maybe 6 inches off the ground, and line them up so a fire truck can go through, through the rolls and everything. That's fine with me. There are places, Dana Jones, for instance, 8 Mile Road. He was way out there, and he should have been grandfathered in, and guess what? He took us to court, and I was happy to see, and I'll say that, I was happy to see that the judge sided with Dana Jones on that one, because it was out of view. It was way out of view.
You're out of time.
Thank you.
Ms. Bergeron.
Well, I don't support it. I believe that
Speak into the mic, please.
I don't support it. I believe that we should get back to our landowners and working with our landowners. I believe that people are smart, and that they can work as a neighborhood, work together to help each other clean up. I don't think that this should be a rule that puts fines on people. With this county cleanup and the car situation, now you have to have a conditional use permit to have more than 3 or 4 vehicles. I just find this an overreach of government, and I think that an education of people working together is precisely what we need, and working together is wise.
Mr. Goodenough.
Well, I thought the commissioners overreached by quite a bit when they embarked on this crusade to clean up the county. I can see regulations for health and safety reasons and for fire protection and those sorts of things, but historically, the neatniks lived in town, and the people who weren't neatniks lived out of town. And so that's the system I think we should have. Many people are interested in cars, trucks, tractors, this and that, and now they're in a position of having to screen things, and sometimes the screening makes it look worse than if the magnificent fleet of collectibles was out there in the field. So I think the commission overreached, and I do not support what they did.
Mr. Schlager.
Mine's pretty simple. I don't believe that county government, or any government for that matter, should get into the business of regulating the view. There's a reason why people live in the county. The only way I think that the county should really get involved in something like that would be for public safety.
And Mr. Lawson.
I'm supportive up to an extent. I'd have to say that I think there needs to be, and there wasn't, far more input from the public and from the stakeholders that were being affected by this. I think that when I spoke to many of them, they weren't really opposed to doing some limited cleanup. From a property rights standpoint, they recognized that their property rights needed to be protected, but they also recognized their neighbors' property rights needed to be protected. It probably does deserve some revisiting with regard to the extent that the rules are in place.
Thank you. While we're talking about development, the west side is growing rapidly. What can you do as a county commissioner to bring more businesses such as restaurants to the west side? We'll start with you, Mr. Hendry.
The West Belt Loop is well on its way. I think we'll be running up and down that in a couple of years. There's a tremendous amount of traffic out there, but I don't know whether it's the county commissioner's role to bring businesses to the west side. I think the developers will be bringing businesses to the west side. And so they'll go through planning and zoning, and we'll make sure that growth out there happens in a orderly manner. But they've got a lot of growing to do, and they've got water to put in those subdivisions and streets. But it'll be the developers that do that, and not necessarily the county.
Mr. Wingerter.
The way the county should be involved in it is through CADA. We give money to CADA along with the city to promote different areas, or Casper and the county, through manufacturing and whatever. As far as restaurants, that's something the county does not get into. However, I heard the other day that there is a truck stop looking at the west side loop on the corner of Elcova Highway, and where the west side loop comes in the Elcova Highway. I'm sure you're going to get some businesses out there, so a little bit of housing, but majority of it, from what I understand, and I would like to see, is rural agriculture along the west side loop. So really, as far as restaurants and all that, that's not something that the county would promote.
Ms. Bergeron.
I just think that probably listening to people that want to come, encouraging them to understand more about our land issues and the people here, and what the people would be supportive of. Other than that, I'm not sure how the actual county commission would be involved in that. I don't know.
Mr. Goodenough.
Well, it seems to me that county commission or any government entity's role is to have a fair system, a reasonable system, and let the market work its magic. And to a large degree, that's what I believe in. On the city council, there's been lots of discussions about downtown development and how to bring businesses to downtown, and where to use taxpayer money to do that, and how do you do it. But then you look at the east side, and the east side hasn't needed any taxpayer encouragement to take off like it has over the last 10 years, and that's because the economic forces that exist in our country and our system right now are pointed in that direction. Big lots, big stores, Menards, Kohl's, and those types of businesses are not going to come to downtown. So I haven't seen the necessity of putting a lot of money into downtown when you're bucking the trend. I think government's role is to have a fair and reasonable system and let private money make the decision.
Mr. Schlager?
I don't think it's the county's job to necessarily encourage a specific type of business to a certain location. I think your developers will do that. They're going to build what will be sustained by customers in a certain area. When you're talking about big business, I think there are some things that the county can do to encourage those businesses to come into our area and perhaps increase jobs substantially. A lot of states across the nation have given tax breaks, basically, to where you don't pay tax for 5 years, and just so that you'll bring your business to their state. I don't know if that would be something that would be feasible for us, but I don't think it's necessarily the county's job to encourage specific types of businesses to come into a specific area.
Mr. Lawson?
I think this is something that results from the fair marketplace. I think it's the developer's job actually to start to lay out a plan for that kind of development. But here's the important thing. The county cannot be in a position where they're stopping development. And I think one of the things that's going on right now, which is good, is that there's a land use plan being reviewed, and it's being looked at from the standpoint of where best development can be as far as urban development, commercial development, and industrial development. I believe the county is in a position to be able to step aside and let the developer come in and make the development as long as it's in an orderly fashion.
Thank you. Starting with you, Mr. Wingerter, do you use the county's parks? How important is it for the county to protect and expand green or open spaces in places like Casper Mountain from development?
How important are county parks and how important? I think they're very important. You know, the city park, let's take the city park makes no money, but you need a city park. The county parks shouldn't be up there for money only. I'll tell you, the Casper Mountain is being used more and more. The new biathlon up there, that's going to be a world-class biathlon. They're going to come from all over the United States and maybe all over the world to use it. We have a first-class cross-country skiing up there. And of course, the city's paying attention to Hoganon a little bit now. Elcova Lake, yes, I think I would not want to do away with the county parks, and I certainly don't want, throughout the years, every once in a while, just sitting around, it's been talked about maybe charging a day use for Elcova Lake, and I'm definitely against that. But county parks are very important. I hope I answered your question. I couldn't quite understand all of it, but anyway, my time's up anyway.
Ms. Bergeron, do you need me to repeat the question? The gist of it is, do you use the parks, and how important is it to protect the parks and expand the parks as development happens? That's kind of boiled down the question, but I may have confused Mr. Wingerter.
Sorry. Should I get my time over?
No, you don't get your time over.
Okay, I just play.
I don't use the parks a whole lot. My granddaughter likes to use the parks, and I go with her, and that's lots of fun. I think we need to be careful about taking government funding to do that. I think that's a lot of the emphasis right now with Agenda 21, and that does concern me. I think that we need to be sure that our efforts are local and perhaps not maybe needing to be quite as elaborate as they are. I just believe in limited government, but I think they do have a use and are beneficial to the people.
Mr. Goodenough.
Well, a lot of people live in Wyoming because of the outdoor activities, and of course, parks are part of that, and I support the continued use and development of the existing park system. I have murdered a lot of trees in the county parks on Casper Mountain when I was a woodcutter there, but I also planted quite a few trees while I was involved with state forestry, so I'm probably running about even. I think it's important because as the land pressure grows, places where people used to be able to go that were private land, but that the private landowner didn't really care if you went onto their land or through their land, a lot of big places have been bought up by out-of-state interests or wealthy people, and they have a tendency to cut off the access that we used to enjoy 30 years ago. And so from that standpoint, it's important for county park land to be maintained and also for the county to be watching out for denial of access.
Mr. Schlager.
I do use the parks, and I think they're very important to protect and actually expand. Those are the amenities that will keep the younger crowd or the younger folks within the state instead of as soon as they graduate high school or graduate college, moving to a different state for bigger and better things.
And Mr. Lawson.
The park system is most definitely part of the quality of life and why a good many people enjoy Casper and want to move to Casper. I think it's something that needs to be supported by the county, but I also think it could be expanded with partnershiping. And one example of partnershiping that's going on right now is the Rotary Park. It's on county land. The county's helping to some extent, but there is also a lot of volunteerism and funding coming from non-government entities in the development of the park, but yet it's still open to the public. And I think there's a lot more opportunities with regard to that if you start seeing the trailways, the parkways that's going on in the city to do this partnershiping. And that also provides an ownership to those that are partnershiping with the county.
And Mr. Hendry.
I've been on the parks, but do I use them? No. I live in the country and I'm outdoors a lot, and that's why I don't go up and spend a lot of time in the parks. But I do think that it's very important to have those parks and to keep them up. I was enthusiastic about the Alcova Pathfinder plan, and we did that. We were trying to put more amenities out there for people, and both on Alcova and Pathfinder, and that was the way to kickstart that, was to get that plan done. And now we can go out there and develop that. The Casper Mountain, we've got the biathlon coming. We approved that. We approved some sled board loans for that. And the skiing up there is second to none. We support that in the groomers and the things that take care of those facilities. So it's very important, and it's important for the state, and it's important for the people in Natrona County.
You're out of time. Thank you. Ms. Bergeron, we'll start with you. Some counties and municipalities in other states have consolidated government services like law enforcement. There used to be a joint effort for code enforcement between the city of Casper and Natrona County. Would that be an idea you'd consider for Natrona County?
No. I believe that law enforcement has a definite purpose to protect the private citizens and to keep law and order according to our rule of law. And code enforcement, I think, is separate. It's more a situation where we want things to be beautiful and pretty, but code enforcement is separate from law enforcement. And I don't think the two should be combined at all. And I think we need to be very careful when we get into something that's brought down to us from Agenda 21 type thinking through the United Nations.
Mr. Goodenough.
For the most part, I don't support any further combination of services because I think it's important that the city control their own area and the county controls their own area. Of course, we have some centralization or combination already. When you call 911, whether you live in the city or the county or Evansville or bar none, the 911 call goes to the same place because that is a combined service. Metro Animal Services is a combined service. The landfill is a combined service. So we have the ones that probably make sense in place right now. And I don't really like the idea of code enforcement, for example, being under the control of another political entity, because if you have code enforcement people run amok, then how do you control them or how do you limit what their activities are? So I think the ones that make sense have already been done, and I would not support further.
Mr. Schlager.
I've heard this rumor for years since I came back, got hired on with the Casper Police Department. There was a rumor that the sheriff's office and the police department were going to be combined and everything would be happy and grand. I don't think I support something like that, and the reason I say think is the funds available would be, you would have to show a benefit to both. And I'm not sure you would be able to do that. One cost would be usually or historically, City of Casper pays their officers more than the county does. So do you then decrease the pay to the police officers within the city, or do you increase all the officers that are in the county? I just don't see how it could be a benefit to both entities to combine. So no, I don't think I would support that.
Mr. Lawson.
At this time, I haven't seen any evidence or anybody discuss it in any meetings that I've attended where such a combination would increase the efficiencies. Now, there may be some administrative efficiencies that could be done with some of the organizations, but with regard to in case of law enforcement, with regard to that specifically, I have not seen where there'd be any efficiency by trying to combine the sheriff's department, let's say, with the city police.
Mr. Hendry.
As far as code enforcement, I don't think that the city and the county should be together on code enforcement. Living out in the county, we don't live in the city, and our rules need to be somewhat different. They don't need to be quite as stringent as they do in town. So I don't favor of having it together. One thing that in Natrona County, you've got a town of 70,000 people. You've got a county that's 84,000 altogether. So I think that the county would get lost eventually if you did things together on law enforcement, fire, those kind of things. And I don't want the county to get lost. There's a lot of citizens that live out in the county, and that's why they live out there, is they don't want to live in the city.
And Mr. Wingerter.
I'm very happy with the way it's working right now, but we do help our code inspectors. They do go out to Evansville and Mills. I'm talking about electrician inspectors and plumbing inspectors, so we do work together with some of the smaller towns. Up in Bar None, they do use one of our sheriff's officers. They pay us to patrol Bar None. So we have some agreements. The fire departments, we have an agreement with several of the town fire departments, with the county fire department and city to work together. So like animal control, like Mr. Goodenough said, animal control, 911. So as of right now, I think things are just running fine. In the future, as a county grows, as a metro area grows, who knows, something new might come up. But right now, I'm very satisfied with the way things are happening.
Okay. Mr. Goodenough, are there positions or services within county government that you see as unnecessary or which might be better handled by the private sector?
In general, no, and of course, this is one of those questions where unless you've been in on the discussions and the budget hearings and the so on and the so forth, it's just really a lack of information in terms of specifics. So I wouldn't say there are positions. In general, I support the public employees, the concept of public employees. I don't really believe privatization is cheaper in the long run for the most part. I think a lot of that is smoke and mirrors, and I do support the concept of public employees. I do believe that government can be more efficient, however, and I would look for ways to do that. I know recently a friend of mine had a cabin built on the mountain, and he submitted his site plan, and so the county knew exactly how big it was and what sort of cabin it was. And then I just got a note from him a couple days ago, and he asked why are the assessors coming up to look at the new cabin when he already told them exactly what kind of cabin it was. So
You're out of time. Mr. Schlager.
You know, again, I'm at a disadvantage to the seated commissioners at this point, but no, I don't have knowledge of any positions that should be privatized at this point.
Mr. Lawson.
I would have to agree with Mr. Schlager. I don't know of any positions that need to be privatized at this time, but from an efficiency standpoint, there is still the advantage of, in some cases, of using consulting services. So if you have a specific need and you don't have the staff, and I'm talking about the public service staff to do it, it can be done through consulting, and I would support that. Not to replace public employees, but to take off the peaks where there's places when you have to have a study done.
And Mr. Hendry.
Well, as a sitting commissioner, if I really thought that something needed to be done, we'd do it. So therefore, I really don't think anything is too far out of place. I would say that down the road, as these subdivisions get in, as the county grows, there is some worth to maybe contracting some road jobs out. Other counties are finding that they can contract the road maintenance out in certain areas and probably be better off and budget-wise. So that's something to look at down the road, but I don't really see anything right now.
Mr. Wingerter.
Right now, I can't see anything either. I'd like to bring up something new that no one else has talked about, but I just can't think of anything. But I can see maybe, let's take the license department. I think it would be, I've already said, instead of everybody going down to the courthouse, I think like maybe in the future you could have like something like an ATM machine scattered around the county where you just put in your number and your credit card and out comes your little license tags. You know, you could work on better ways to do things, don't get me wrong. But right now, I'm very proud of our county employees and public employees. And the road work, that's an idea too. We have talked about that periodically, but we haven't done it yet. But we're always looking for different ways to save money for the county if it can possibly be done. Thank you.
Ms. Bergeron.
I think it's worth looking through different employees and making sure that they are still needful. I think that sometimes we just tend to keep on going and ongoing, where we should take the time to make sure the need is still there and not grow more government. It would, take discussion through the budget process to know who should, what positions maybe are no longer as useful as they were. But we are in a situation where Casper, Wyoming is growing, and Natrona County is growing, and we need to be wise in limiting things. But let's just don't keep continuing with bigger budgets when it's a wiser decision to limit.
This is your last question. one of the members of the audience wants each of you to say whether you live in the city or the county. So this is a one-word answer, starting with Mr. Schlager.
City.
City.
County.
City.
County.
City looking for property in the county.
That's not shame. One
And
word.
that was the
You cheater. You cheater.
that was the last question that I have.
You want the truth, don't you?
We've got enough time for you to each have 2 minutes to kind of wrap up. We'll start at Mr. Goodenough's end and go this way, and we'll be finished with the forum. So 2 minutes to say whatever you didn't get to say earlier.
Well, thank you for the forum. I would point out that this would have been, not to bash the library, this would have been better held in the city council chambers, because then it could have
Hear,
been
hear.
televised to the entire world, but the city council has resisted opening the city council chambers to let other groups use it frequently. It's a special occasion now, and I voted and advocated to let the city council chambers be used by whatever group wanted to use it, because then it can be on cable channel 3, but my colleagues didn't think that was a good idea. I'm running as an independent this time, and to do that you have to get signatures, petition signatures. So I went out and I talked to, I figure, over 1,000 residents of Natrona County, and I came up with about 840 signatures, talking to 1,000 people or more, because you have your unregistered people, you have your felons, you have the Keith Goodenough is an idiot crowd. And so I had to talk to quite a few people to get these 830 signatures, and then of course not all the signatures are good, so I ended up with 689 valid signatures, which was enough to put me on the ballot as an independent for a countywide office. And I have had a long history of public service. I first ran for office in 1984. That was 30 years ago. I had hair at that time. And I've been at this a long time. I believe I've given good service to the citizens, because I frequently represent the minority opinion. And I've noticed in government that, especially elected government, that many times the prevailing dynamic and the thought processes go with the flow. And I will never do that. I always think there's questions to be asked, and somebody needs to stand up and say, that is a terrible idea, guys. And I'm willing to do that. I've done that from the very beginning, and I thank you very much, Carol.
You're welcome. Ms. Bergeron.
Oh.
Use the mic. No, we'll go this way.
I would like to thank Betsy and the library for putting this on. I know that you go to an extensive amount of advertising to get people involved in this. I applaud your efforts, and thank you to the League of Women Voters. It's a good way to reach the public and help them know who they might elect. That's a very important forum. My concern is our $17 trillion deficit in spending. We are spending debt money. We are infringing upon the future lives of our children and our grandchildren. And I'm appalled to see that happen. I believe that we need to be more fiscally responsible in our decision-making. I believe that our Constitution is our rule of law, and it guides us. And I believe that the foundation of our country was built on the participation of the people in government. And I would like to encourage more and more individuals to be involved in the planning of government, to be at the county commission meetings, to be at the city council meetings. It's crucial, and I believe that we should study. I encourage people in their Constitution, read one article a day to make yourself aware of what the Constitution affords us in allowing us to counter the Declaration of Independence provides for are unalienable rights of life, liberty, and property. But it goes through a lot of abuses.
Thank you. Mr. Wingerter.
You know, to start off with, I'm going to read what I have on my brochure. You want a county commissioner who knows the county, knows how to listen and treat people, and realizes it takes hard work to get the job done. And we always remember they're a public servant to serve the people. And that person, I'd like to think I'm one of them, is me. But anyway, last night I was watching a CNN special about Williston, North Dakota, and the troubles they're having up there and planning and all that. You know, it's a boom oil town. And the crime problems they're having. And I don't want Wyoming towns to turn into that, and especially in Natrona County. I want to properly fund Sheriff's Department, and I've always supported the Sheriff's Department, and I want a properly funded Health Department, City County Health Department. With this Ebola scare, I know there's a lot of scare talk going around, but it is kind of scary. And I see the hospital the other day came out and with a press release what they're doing at the hospital to make sure that if there's any case of Ebola, you know, that they're properly prepared for something like that. But anyway, folks, there's so much going on in this county right now. It's with the metro area growing, and we want, you know, we're updating the 1998 plan, county plan. There's things going on in the mountain, the lake. It's exciting, and I would like to be part of it. I've been on the commission when we had low times. I've been on the commission when we had good times, and I think there's some good times happening in this county right now. But you know, we have a little problem with some crime right now, and that's why I want to make sure that we have a properly funded Sheriff's Department. And so far, everything that Gus Holbrook has asked for, or Mark Benton, we've given them within.
Your time is
okay,
up.
thank you very much.
Mr. Hendry.
Well, I think as commissioner, it's important to manage the affairs of the county. It is a business, and that's what I know how to do. I know how to run a business. And, you know, we've got all kinds of boards that we appoint people to, and if anybody knows boards out there that you'd like to sit on, airport board, library, health board, a number of joint powers boards, the MPO, economic development boards. Those are managing the affairs of the county, and we appoint people to those boards. So that's a pretty important job for us. I think that I've done a good job on the commission the last 6 years, and I'd like to continue. You know, I'm proud of the fact that we've got a world-class Townsend Justice Center down there. They're talking in the state about courtroom security, and we've got a problem. We don't have a problem in Natrona County. We have an absolutely secure facility, and both for the people that use it and the people that work in it. I'm proud of the juvenile detention. You know, I wasn't sure we needed one. I was of the opinion, and said it several times, that if you don't like our juvenile detention center, stay out of it. But I was told by the state that that wasn't exactly how we were going to operate. And the state did help us with that, but we have a good facility up there that'll last well into the future. I ran for this job 6 years ago to talk about roads, and I haven't got the chance to yet because we've been bogged down in building the two facilities, and you soon find out there's other things. So now I'd like to start getting to work on roads, and I'd appreciate your vote.
Mr. Lawson.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody that attended here tonight. I appreciate it. Probably one of the things that I've really picked up on, I've been attending the county commissioner meetings and the workshops and going to several of the board meetings, and I never realized how much work is really involved. It really takes a lot of time on a county commissioner's part. And if you're not willing or not capable of providing that time, you ought not be a county commissioner. So from my perspective, I have the passion, I have the time to do it, And I believe I have the tools and the skills with my background to be able to be a good partner with the other 4 county commissioners. There's a lot of talk about what can we individually do, but it's really what can we do as a commission, and that's what's going to be needed. Rapid growth. It's great, but it's bringing along all these problems. And with rapid growth, there's budgetary problems. And right now, when we're talking about budgetary problems, we seem to be talking about budgetary problems from the standpoint of where do we spend the money. That can turn around really quick. I've had the experience where having a $30 million budget and then being told it needs to be reduced by anywhere from $7 to $8 million. Best thing we can do is start planning ahead, working with the elected officials, working with the staff, division chiefs, start looking at a plan. Should a turnaround occur, that we have a plan other than just across the board cuts.
And Mr. Schlager.
First, I want to thank you, Carol. I really meant it when I enjoy these debates that you host. I really do. You're fair. You don't allow people to go over. Terry? But, I like Terry. We joke around a lot. I'm hardworking. I love Casper. My agenda, I keep getting accused in the paper of having an agenda. My agenda is to make lives better for citizens of Natrona County across the board. I don't know it all, but I'm willing to work hard and I'm dedicated. I will show due diligence and reviewing all the paperwork that needs to be reviewed, the packets that I know they have to go through. I won't rubber stamp anything.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all of you again. Thank you to the audience. And it's getting closer. November the 4th is our day to vote. I'm hoping that some people are already voting. I understand from the county clerk that about 2,700 absentee ballots went out. Hopefully they will all come back in, and every other registered voter in the city and the county will manage to cast their vote.